Okie dokie, good afternoon. Day 16, is it? Something like that. Been an unusual day so far. I had to get up really early and head into town, get on the Wi-Fi to go on a Microsoft Teams meeting at work because there's restructuring happening. I don't think my job's necessarily at risk, but I probably am going to have to reapply for the job that I've done for the last 7 years because, you know, new CEO. I don't know, government cutbacks, I guess. I think what's happening is that the national parks funding is staying at a flat rate, but unfortunately the rest of the world is, you know, suffering hyperinflation. So we've got the same amount of money, but everything costs more. So they're de-establishing certain departments. Oh dear, corporate buzzwords. What they mean is shutting a department and sacking everyone, but you know, that would make them sound like sociopaths, so they can't say that, so they have to de-establish. But anyhow, I digress. In other news, I've brought my Crocs to wear around camp and for travelling homing because I knew my trainers would get stinky, but I just wasn't quite prepared for how stinky they would get and quite how quickly they would get stinky. I think it's because they got saturated on a few occasions when we've had thunderstorms. So I asked ChatGPT for any tips on how to get rid of the smell in my trainers, and it suggested white vinegar, which is available in all the supermarkets here as a cleaning product. They use it as a bathroom cleaner. So I bought some of that and I've soaked my trainers in them and then rinsed them, and they're just airing in the sun now. Obviously the UV will also help, so I'll see how they go. Worst case scenario, I could just bin them and buy some fresh trainers. You know, I was in Aldi's yesterday. It's not where I normally shop, but you know, the magical middle aisle of wonder, there was some cheapo footwear on there for like €15. So if needs be, I can just replace them. But I'll see if this might work. So I figured I'd try and add a bit of actual valuable content today, so I'm going to run through my cook kit that I brought with me, show you all the individual items and the sort of improvised bits and pieces. I have gone with an overly comprehensive cook kit because I'm here for the whole month and I wanted to be able to cook food and so on. So I have gone a bit belt and braces and over the top with it, but yeah, that's my choice. Likewise, the stuff I brought with me, I could, you know, don't tip over, I could narrow it down if I'd have wanted to, gone with like, you know, minimalist kit if I'd have, you know, when I go hiking for the next couple of days, I probably will just take a very minimal amount of bits and bobs with me. But anyhow, I'll turn the camera around and I'll show you the kit. I'll open it all up and run through it with you. So hopefully this bit's on camera anyway, because I can't see the screen right now. So let's have a look and bring it down a bit. Right then. Let me see. Actually, I'm going to move it around. No, I'm going to leave it like that. So this is an extravagance, I suppose. Let me kneel down on a little mat. It's an outkit kettle. Let me just see. Bear with me. I want to make sure we're lined up first. Yeah, that looks vaguely promising. I'll move a bit further back. So it's an outkit kettle. I like having a standalone kettle. I like my hot drinks. It wasn't cheap, it was titanium. As you can see, it's very blackened at the minute. Having a kettle so I can always just make a hot drink that's enclosed, just uses less fuel and boils the water faster. Weighs, I don't know, 100 grams or something, I don't know. That's I think it's a Snow Peak actually. Yeah, Snow Peak titanium plate. I went with this one because it's got slightly deeper sides and a flat bottom. So you can improvise a handle and use it as a frying pan if you want to. But it's so thin, stuff tends to, you know, stick and burn. You have to be very attentive. That's the thing with titanium, especially when it's this thin, only like a millimetre or two thick. You get hot spots. It doesn't conduct heat in a nice way like aluminium or steel or copper does. So you have to stir it constantly. So and yet another pan. So the plan was to have two different pans. So the plate aside, I'll explain the cozy in a minute and the bits and pieces. The idea is to have two pans basically. This one I would put my staple in, my pasta, my rice or whatever, bring it to the boil, and once it's boiled, put it into the little cozy I've made, It's an old, very thin sleep mat, a bit like one of those car windscreen sort of heat protector things. So I chopped that up, and I had some of these Mylar bubble wrap envelopes from, I used to vape an e-ciggy, and my e-ciggy used to come in these. So I chopped them up, and I've made a cosy basically. So you bring the pan to the boil on the cooker. Once it's come to the boil, and slap it in the cosy with the lid. And it just cooks in its own heat, and then that frees up the cooker, so that can then be my sauce in here, whether it's, you know, chili, bolognese, curry, whatever it may be. So that's that. That's the theory. So far I've only used this one for the cooking because I've been using like packet meals, and this is the one I've been using to heat up water to wash in, so this has become my wash basin basically. This one's I bought this one at a bushcraft swap meet that I used to go to. I think it says, it's MYSOLO, sorry, MySolo titanium gear. So it had like a frying pan lid, but the way the handle hinged was the wrong way, so you'd be using it and it would just fold up on you. So first time that happened, I've just never used it since basically. But this pan's okay. So that's my cooking setup there. On top of these bits, what's nice is they sort of nest nicely together. And I've also got this, so when I go off hiking for a couple of days, I'll probably just take this with me. And this is an ultralight, you know, little cook kit. You could cook in it. I tend to just use it for hot drinks. So it's by Tokes, so there's a lid. So again, I've made another cosy because your drinks tend to go cold really quickly in titanium cups. What happens is the cup gets hot and the drink gets cold inside. So again, I used more of the Mylar bubble wrap and just made myself a little cosy that I can put in. And that helps to keep the heat in there, so that works. So this can also be then used on the stove. So this is again by Tokes. It's a tiny little titanium stove. It's got ridges around the inside, like a double skin on the inside, and what happens is you put the alcohol in there and light it, and then the heat of the alcohol boiling pressurizes the alcohol in these channels, causes it to vaporize, and it jets out of these little holes and creates a proper little roaring flame. There's no control on it. It's not like a Trangia with a simmer ring, it's just full on. So it's great for boiling water, but not so great for cooking. But it doesn't come with any kind of pot stand, so I use a piece of mesh. This was actually a bird feeder that I saw on offer in Pets at Home for like 99p. It was like so big, so I chopped it up. I carefully measured the sort of 1 inch from, people have done tests and they reckon 1 inch from the flame to the pot is the most efficient sort of height for using it. So I don't know if you can see that. So yeah, that's the stove, and there's the little mesh thing. Potentially that can sit on top. Any of them, they all sit on there quite well. It's stronger than it looks. And then this was an ultralight kit. It actually came with a tiny little hexamin burner, or what do you call it, S-bit burner, little 3-legged prongy thing. But I prefer the alcohol stove. It's generally a bit cleaner. I say generally. The alcohol I'm getting here is really dirty stuff. So that's that. So when I go off hiking for the next couple of days over to the coast, it'll just be this bit that I take with me, with the little folding spork. And it'll just be enough for making hot brews, and I'll eat cold food or eat meals out. I have this thing here, which is actually part of a mobile phone, silicon mobile phone case, and I chopped it up when the phone became defunct. Chopped up the silicon thing, and it works as a little hot hands thing for picking up hot stuff. So sometimes I'll want to move that out of the way so I could snuff the flames out. And I've burnt myself on that thing several times, so this is handy. What else have I got that I can show you? Carry this with me because for this titanium pans you can just scrub it. Normally I'll only bring half of one with me, but it's just what I had. What I also brought, also out kit, it's called the Coro. It's a fairly ultralight little stove, but it's one with a hose. I prefer the ones with the hose for the UK cold weather because you can shake the canister up and turn it upside down. So it's a little, but I say, and it's got like a preheat, little brass preheat thing, so it works better in the cold weather. But I've not got any fuel for it, so I never got around to going to Decathlon and picking up a fuel canister, so this hasn't been used so far. And again, it does have a valve on it, but it's not great at simmering and it's quite loud. One thing to note when you're storing these things, don't nip them up, because it compresses the seal inside. So when you're not using it, just wind it back a little bit so that the seal's not being compressed. But the thing is, when you attach your gas cylinder next time, you have to remember to nip it back up. I've been doing it for so long now, I don't tend to forget, but as soon as you screw it on, you hear it hissing, you just nip it up and it's done. But it's just better. One of the guys at the bushcraft meet I used to go to was the resident stove and lamp expert, and that was a tip he gave me. So that's that. I say I've not actually used this on this trip. I've not used it for some time. I've also got a really nice Primus multi-fuel stove, but it's quite big and hefty, but it runs on almost anything other than alcohol. So that's that. One other thing I've used, I forgot what this is. There's supposed to be the stuff sack for. It's really nice, a bit tatty now. It's made of Dyneema composite fibre, what used to be called Cuban fibre. I think it's called Treadlight Gear or something like that. It was a little handmade thing on eBay that used to make them. I don't know if he still does, but they're very good. But yeah, this is just a little coffee filter. Again, I've not used it yet, I've just been drinking instant coffee, but you can sit it in there, put some filter coffee in there, pour your boiling water in. You've got filter coffee. As you can see, I like my coffee. Stay. And then the last thing I suppose is my other cutlery. So obviously that, with this little cup, I used the little folding spork, but I went a bit belt and braces again. The trusty big titanium spoon. This one's by Life Venture. Love that thing. It's got a flat bottom so it can scrape and stuff and get right to the bottom of stuff. For some reason I bought, because I was going to be using the 2 pans, I figured wooden spoon and whatever spoon. So it's a bit hefty, but you know, it's short, which is handy. And then British Army ration pack spoon. It was actually just in the, I've got several of these and I tend to just slide them down in the water bladder pouch in all my rucksacks. So each of my rucksacks has got one of these in it. I've been out before and forgot cutlery, and trying to improvise a spoon out of a stick and shaving a stick into a spoon just isn't much fun when your dinner's already cooked and going cold. So I just tend to carry one of these in each rucksack. This is a camping cutlery. It is steel, but it's so thin and flimsy it's not very heavy, and it's sometimes just nice to have a proper knife and fork. The little British Army ration pack tin openers are best, but I didn't have one handy, so this is just, I like a good old-fashioned tin opener, and it's got a bottle opener on there as well. It's heavy, but meh. And then the last thing is the trusty Swiss Army knife. I think it's the Camper. I can't remember which one it is. It's got thing for getting thing out of horses' hooves, corkscrew. I've got the little screwdriver and the little map pin in there. Got the tweezers and the toothpick. It's got large blade, a small blade, another can opener and a screwdriver, a bottle opener and another screwdriver, apparently a wire stripper, and I think there's meant to be, if I can find it, and there's a saw on there as well. So generally useful. It's legal carry in the UK. It's non-folding, non-locking. I mean, it's locking and non-locking and folding and under 3 inches, so it's legal to have it on you in the UK. Not in a pub or a football match or a nightclub, obviously, but what the hell would you be taking a Swiss Army knife to a nightclub for? And then I've just got a couple of lighters that I just bought once I got into country, a little mini Bic, and then one with a snood on it. And that's basically the my cook kit, I suppose. I say it's slight, definite overkill. I've got far more stuff than I really need. I haven't used half of this stuff, but obviously it was an unplanned trip, so I didn't know what I was going to want in advance, and obviously I've only been here a week and a half, so some of this stuff that I haven't used yet may still get used. But I'm not really regretting bringing it all, just because, you know, I didn't know what was going to happen when I got here. It does all pack down within itself quite nicely, and none of it weighs a deal. Where's that gone? It goes in there. It goes in there. I tend to put I don't use the lid for my cup that often, so I just shove it in the bottom most of the time. Put the cozy back on. So yeah, I mean, hopefully this may have been some value to people. So the little Tokes Ultralight cook kit with the Hexagon burner was a really nice set. It was one that I think I got it for my birthday 10-12 years ago, something like that. And I do use it with the Esbits cubes and the Hexagon cubes. I ended up getting multiple boxes of the British Army Hexagon tablets. And they bring back all sorts of fond memories of being in the cadets as a kid. Every time I smell them, I'm 15 again, or whatever, 14 again. Yeah, so it all kind of, excuse the noise, it all nests quite nicely. I quite like this one. I got the one with the bale handle because I was bushcrafting at the time, and it was useful to be able to hang it over a fire. Once it's got water in it, it levels out. When I'm using it on the stove, I tend to just unhook the bale handle because it's a bit of a pain in the arse. And that all nests nicely inside there. Shove that on top. That's the lid for that. The lids have got this quite nice little feature where you can slide that over and it stays upwards. And you have a thing to let the steam out. You can theoretically drain through that, but I don't tend to bother. So that's that lot. I say it nests down all quite nicely into each other. I'd say there's probably 400-500 grams there at least. I haven't weighed it, but I'd say that at least. I do love my kettle, I must admit. What happened was when I bought my nice bike, I bought a Sonda Broken Road with a pinion gearbox. It's one of the most expensive bikes that Upkit made at the time. And I signed up for their rewards program in advance, and they give you 10% of the value back in gift vouchers. They're discount vouchers, so it's like spend 100, get £50 off, for example, which is still £50 off. So after spending £4,000 and a bit on a bicycle, I ended up with 400 quid's worth of discount vouchers. So I bought the kettle and I bought some clothes and, you know, just kitted myself. I look like I'm sponsored by Outkit, which I don't mind. They're a local company to where I live. Pick up, try and get myself back on camera. So yeah, I've got perhaps a disproportionate amount of Outkit stuff just because of all these vouchers I had. So if you are making a big purchase from them, it's definitely worth enrolling in their rewards program, is the long and short of it. And since getting the titanium kettle, I have really literally brought it on every single trip with me because I do just love the thing. Don't know why, just do. So yeah, that's my kit, my cook kit at least. I might maybe do a further inspection of some of my other stuff I've got with me. Back home in my storage unit, I've got so much different variety of stuff. I've been doing this kind of playing this game for many years now and gone through the trial and error of different setups and systems and things like that. I've got the big stainless steel zebra pots. We've done what do you call them, Dakota fire pits. I've been involved in doing what is it when you bury something? I forgot there's a name for it. We did at the bushcraft meet one time. We did like a hog roast for Christmas, and then we've also done venison in a pit oven. Done all sorts of different things. I've been very fortunate that I was part of like a fairly formal bushcraft group, so I was able to, as much as they didn't give lessons, it was a safe space where you could go and try things and practice things, and there was enough sort of knowledgeable people around that if you were making a mistake, someone would sort of steer you right. So I've been able to acquire a lot of sort of useful knowledge over the years. My plan is to try and distill some of that down into my YouTube videos. I am writing an ebook about cycle touring at the moment as well. I'm going to have a big section on that about route planning and expedition planning. When I was in the cadets as a teenager, I did all my DV, so I've been doing expedition planning since I was a teenager. Comes very naturally to me now. I don't, you know, hence me just, wow, that's a weird big insect. Never seen one like that before. I'm in a foreign country and everything's scary. So yeah, the skills that come naturally to me. I know I have met people in the past who, you know, city folks who find the you know, the idea of just wandering off into the countryside a bit unnerving. So it'd be nice to be able to distill some of my information and be able to sort of share my passion for the outdoors and the skills I've learnt over the years. It'd be nice to be able to, you know, encourage and inspire other people to do it, because I get so much satisfaction and joy from being out in the countryside. I don't think it's natural for the human eye to be seeing straight edges and square corners all day. I think the randomness of nature helps unscramble your brain. Yeah, I think I've rambled on long enough now. Hopefully it's of some value to people. I'm going to head back into town later and pop to the library, try and get this uploaded and top up my batteries. What we're on, it's 1:30 now, so they're open till about 6:30. My trainers are just drying in the sun. I rinsed the vinegar out of them. To be fair, they do smell slightly better already, so I'm hopeful that they'll be okay. I've just got some of my kit drying on the washing line, just where it got damp, where I got rained on yesterday. All the clothes that are in kind of contact with my skin, my t-shirt, my boxers, my socks, they're all merino, which is naturally antibacterial. Doesn't stop you getting smelly, but your clothes don't tend to smell. The notable exception I've discovered with that is the socks. I've got really nice darn tough socks that I've had for many years that I've been wearing in my trainers, and merino or otherwise, the stank of the trainers is just permeated the socks. So I also rinse those through in the white vinegar as well. We'll see how it goes. So yeah, I've kind of plotted a route out. I'm heading out to Signs probably on Monday. It's Thursday today, so there's mixed weather again for the rest of the weekend. So once the weather picks up, obviously it's gorgeous today, but raining again tomorrow and Saturday. So when the weather picks up next week, I'm due for sort of 4 or 5 days of clear sunshine. So the plan is to head out to the coast, walk north along the coast for a little while, up to some sort of nature reserves, and then turn east and head back inland, back to here. So I'm going to try and stash as much of my kits out the way, you know, the stuff I can just go ultra minimal if I'm only away for a couple, you know, one night. I'll take the gatewood cape, the bug net, my roll mats, the tiny little Tokes cup kit, and that'll probably be it really. I'll try and keep the rucksack, my water filter, keep the rucksack as light as possible. So if I can get the rucksack sort of, you know, 4 or 5 kilos, something like that, that will make the walking much more pleasant. Yeah, that'll give me a couple of days hiking, and then I'll just take it from there really. So I say it's a different style of trip to usual. Normally I'd be moving every single day, but that's obviously a lot easier when I've got a bicycle. You know, I prefer to load the horse and not the rider. So when I'm on my bike, since using panniers and bike packing bags on my bike, it's been such a revelation. I will never go back to wearing a rucksack on my bike. I mean, maybe if I'm just out mountain biking, you know, for a day ride up in the hills, I'll wear my sort of, I've got a nice Osprey sort of camelback type thing. But for anything longer than, you know, an afternoon, I will load the bike every single time and try and remain as unencumbered as possible. I'm rambling now, aren't I? So I'll speak to you tomorrow. I hope you have a good day. Hope the weather's a bit better in the UK. Apparently I think the weather's starting to pick up and warm up a bit, but January, February are always miserable, aren't they? So anyhow, speak to you later.